remember what they say. Cut 3 or 4 times, measure once, or measure 7 times and cut 3 times, or something like that. Hi, I'm Matt, and this is Procrastination Garage. It's Thursday morning around 9:30 a.m. Down here burning some brush. Just looked over at the island on the pond, in the pond there. I've got a couple of geese out there. I don't think I've ever seen geese in the pond. I saw these guys fly over, probably an hour ago, and then I just went up to the house, and I just came back down here to tend the fire, and looky here. That's pretty cool. Oh, I've scared them off. A lot of times I'll have a couple of ducks in here. Same thing happens. You come down here, they get scared. Come down here with a lawnmower, doesn't bother them at all. But as soon as you start walking around. Anyway, burning brush, moving on to something else. Still Thursday morning, around, I don't know, 10:30 a.m., coming up on 11 maybe. Who's paying attention? So, I haven't been doing a lot of videoing for Procrastination Garage, but that doesn't mean I haven't been doing stuff, just stuff that I didn't really want to share because you've seen it before. So you can see my wood pile is starting to grow again. This is wood that I brought over from the rental property where I'm starting to clean up the yard over there. Yeah, the mess from last fall when we took the trees down. So this is all weeping willow wood here. And we'll use this, we'll use it here, we'll use it for camping, just whatever. So these trees here, you guys probably can't tell, maybe you see some cuttings, but I cut them back to where they were kind of encroaching on the driveway. And it was really an issue when I was backing trailers down in. So I trimmed that one up. The one there in the middle, I trimmed that one up the most. There's still another branch or two that I may take off of that one. And then the one up there by the road, I did that as well. So I don't know if you remember, I had a real mess here left over from splitting wood and just stuff coming off the firewood that was here. So I shoveled that all out. It went down on my burn pile. Got burned today, a little bit more there, but that's from the latest round. Mower, not this mower, that mower I'm actually using, where can we see it? I've got it underneath the patio cover right now. Well, I did have it on the patio cover, yeah. So steering broke on it a couple days ago when I started mowing. Ordered new parts off of Amazon. They were supposed to be here yesterday. They didn't show. Hopefully they'll show up today. So I am needing to mow. I just started mowing. I was only probably 10 minutes in when it broke. So we might get to that later today. But right now, I think we've got a UTV project. What do you think, little bear? Do we have a UTV project to do? You know, he's not the first cat I've had that just loves rolling around in this dirt. In fact, I think he's the third. The ongoing issue with the side-by-side has been a roof over the top of it. This was a budget project from day one. I bought the cheapest side-by-side I could find and started adding stuff to it, going as cheap as I could. So the cheapest route to go was this canvas fabric roof. And it worked pretty well. The problem is you could not tow with it in place. I tried and I damaged it right away. So I quit doing that. But then every time you got to wherever you were going to go play, you had to fumble around, put the roof on, and then when you're done, you had to take it back off. So, okay, I got used to that. But then it just started wearing out. The straps, well, actually this little plastic clip that holds the strap broke on one side. The other side was getting close. So I tried putting a grommet, using little bungee cords. That worked okay. This is for the front. And then at the back, you've got these little things here, straps that go around in Velcro. And they went around right up here. And they're starting to wear out. So at the end of the day, and then, there were also 2 crossbows made of fiberglass. I got lazy in the way I was transporting the top, even though it was off. Lost one of them. In fact, I might have lost 2 of them. And so it's been one issue after another. So Kawasaki makes a nice plastic top, but they want over $400 for it. And that goes against my budget build. Plus I'm too cheap. I'm trying to save up for a new suspension, which is, I think is up to about $1,800 now. And I'm getting pretty close, but I'm not there yet. So if I took, $400, $500 out of that, that sets me back. So, what's the guy to do? Plywood. So, I was going to go with 1/4-inch plywood. I thought I had a sheet of it laying around. I don't. I've got this, which I think is close to 3/8. And we're going to call this a proof of concept. See if it works. But you know how I go with proof of concepts. If it works, it usually just stays. So, I don't know how wide the side-by-side is. I think they're around 60 inches. So, it's going to run 4 feet that way. So basically from front to back, it'll run 4 feet. Now the good news is, if you start up at the windshield, up here, and you measure back 4 feet, 4 feet takes you back to about here. So we're gonna have plenty of overhang. So then what I'm wondering is if there's any way I could do some cuts to be able to make this corner. You know, if I just cut some, I think, kerfs into the plywood, just deep enough to where the plywood becomes bendable and goes around that. I don't know if I'm going to get that done today or not, but we'll think about it. We probably, after we cut the section of plywood that we need, what we have left over, maybe we'll play around with that and see what we can do. So that would be really cool if we could do that. So for now, the goal is just to get the plywood cut, bolted into place. You can see, if we can make the corner, there's holes here already. But more importantly, can you see right here, there's 2 at the back and 2 at the front. Those are places to bolt the accessory top on. So we've already got the mounting points and everything. So it's just a matter of cutting it and bolting it on there at a minimum. The goal is to have this ready today because I want to go ride tomorrow. I was hoping to put together a group ride. Nobody wants to play, so I'll go up by myself. But again, I want a roof. So do some measuring, do some cutting, see what we get. Okay, it's time to make some sawdust. So I measured the windshield on the side-by-side. It came out at 53 3/8. And I determined that it ought to be about, the top ought to be about a 1/2 inch on each side wider, so 1 inch wider overall. So I just rounded to 54 1/2. Then I had to take into account the offset from the guide and the blade here. That was 1 1/4 inches. So I set up straight edge accordingly. Everything's all set. I brought out a door for a spacer. Not sure you can see that. I added some bench cookies for spacers, so everything is supported and I won't cut into my door. So now if we make a cut, that piece should be perfect. Remember what they say. Cut 3 or 4 times, measure once, or measure 7 times and cut 3 times, or something like that. So I actually did have to readjust because once I did all my secondary measuring, I realized that I'd actually put the straight edge on the wrong side of the line. It's all fixed now. We'll make the cut. My arm's not quite long enough. Hey everybody, hope you're enjoying the video. Do me a favor, hit the like button or the dislike button. Please subscribe, please leave a comment down below, and tell all your friends. Thank you. It didn't take more than a minute or two to get it sitting where I wanted. And then I went ahead and I put a clamp on each side to hold it in place. So I looked at it from the front. Sorry if you get some bad light here. Just eyeballed the overhang on each side on the top of the windshield. Determined it was about even. And then I looked down the length of the roll bar frame to make sure that it stayed even all the way down, which it does. And then I looked across the front here and made sure that I'm equal here all the way across. I liked everything, so I clamped it down. So next step, I'm going to go ahead and drill a hole up through here, which will go through the plywood. And then back here, same thing, up through that hole. So that hole there is threaded. So I'm going to try not to destroy the threads, and we're going to try and use those threads. They're metric. I'm not sure if I have any bolts, but I can get them from the hardware store. And then up here, there's nothing threaded, so we'll just do our own bolts. Shouldn't be a problem. So that's next step, drilling some holes. Little tear out up there. Now we're going to try and make some little kerf cuts. Now I was going to use the big saw, but it actually doesn't adjust down low enough, so the blade would be too deep. So I've got out my little Ryobi. I can adjust it. You can see, maybe you can see, it's kind of shaded there, what I've got it adjusted to. And I'm going to go ahead and make some cuts across here. You can see my marks. I'm doing like every 3/8 of an inch. I'm going to make a cut that's a little over halfway through. This is just on a test piece, and we'll see if we can bend it. And if that doesn't work, we'll either go deeper or we'll put the cuts closer together, something. I put the test piece in place, and I don't have enough fingers to hold it and bend it and show you. It bends not well, but it does bend. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead on the real piece. Instead of cutting every 3/8 of an inch, I'm going to cut it down to 1/4 of an inch. And I think what's going to happen is that I will end up bolting it down to the 4 bolts that I've got 4 places. And then I will start bending it, and I will spray water on the outside to wet it. Because you can see I've cut, in focus, buddy, I've cut to just about the last layer of plywood there. And so my thought is that if I can soak that all the way through, that'll help the bending process. So I may not get it bent today. That's all right, but we'll at least get it bolted in place. But I've got the real piece over here laid out, getting ready to make the first cut. I'm not going to bore you with all these cuts, and then I'll show you when I'm done. I've got all the little kerf cuts made. I do have a little bit of a problem though. The first couple I made actually went a little too deep. I'm not sure why. So that's actually kind of floppy right down there. The rest of them are better, although they might not be deep enough. I don't know. Can you see that? Probably was out of focus. Anyway, headed to the hardware store to pick up some nuts and bolts and stuff and actually get my hair cut. So be back in a while. I made it back from getting my hair cut and the trip to the hardware store. So what we're going to do, this Windex bottle is filled up with water. We're going to just soak and soak and soak and soak the inside of this. And then I'm going to flip it over and soak the outside of it. We're going to try and get it wet all the way through so we can get a little bending done. See if that works. I've got it bolted on. My bolts are a little long. I can grind those off, not a problem. So bolted at the front. Can you see? Bolted at the back. And as you can see, I'm getting some droop here. The problem is it's already cracked through right there and may crack through other places. My fault for being too deep. I'm going to try and bring it down with the clamp. Maybe we can get a couple bolts in it. So I don't know if I'm going to redo this at some point in the future. You know, my plan was to do like poor man's fiberglass over the top of it, which is basically tight bond glue over a cloth, and which makes for a weatherproof and add some structural integrity to it. So we may be able to still use this piece. I don't know. Let me do a little clamping and see what I come up with, but it looks like it's going to break across there, but not the end of the world. Using clamps, I've got it bent over like it should be. But see the crack here? Yeah, that's one of those first two cuts I made where it was too deep. And I don't know how it got too deep, because it wasn't too deep when I was making the test cuts, but I should have checked the depth before I started on this piece. So anyway, that's going to be a problem. The other cuts seem to be okay and is folding over pretty good. So whether I can salvage this at a later date, I don't know. But if I do it again, I think I'm on the right track. So what I'm going to do now is I need to put 2 bolts in this area here to hold that piece. My guess is by the end of tomorrow that crack will be all the way across and it'll be busted, but not the end of the world, I guess. So now the one issue I've got, drilling these holes. And can you see those bolts there that mount that part of the roll bar? They need to be removed. At least one of them does, to drill one of the holes. So I may have to do that, but I'll just pull the bolts one at a time if necessary and drill the hole, put the bolts back. So I'll let you know when I'm done. Got 2 bolts in there. 2 bolts in there. So in theory, we're done. Now, we haven't started releasing the clamps yet. And I'm guessing we start releasing clamps, something may happen. And if it doesn't happen now, it'll happen tomorrow. So I'm going to go ahead and let them loose. Not going to let you watch, but I'll show you when I get them done. Then we've got to clean out the back of it, get stuff loaded back in. I don't know if I mentioned going for a ride tomorrow. Looks like it's just my friend Don and I. We'll have a good time. So let's get it done. All loaded up and ready for tomorrow. Looking good. On Friday morning, my friend Don and I, we met at the ranger station and we headed up to Windy Point on Highway 12. After unloading our side-by-sides, we headed up Forest Road 1302. Just a little ways up 1302, we found a road that kicked off to the left and started heading back down toward the river. Neither one of us had ever been down it, so we decided to follow it. It did, in fact, take us all the way back down to the Titan River. And on the way down, we came across an irrigation project where there were some steel and concrete canals built. We had a couple of goals for this day's ride. Our primary goal was to find a cabin that we found a couple seasons ago that we weren't sure if it had survived the fire from last summer. We didn't remember exactly where it was. We just remembered it was kind of tucked down in the woods. We were hoping it survived. Our second goal, and we thought it would be an easy one, was to get up to the Jumpoff Fire Tower Lookout. The views up there are incredible. Back on 1302, we climbed higher up the hill. Next major intersection, we took a left. This was headed east toward Yakima. At this point, we were back on the Oak Creek Wildlife Preserve. We knew we would dead end at some private property, but we figured we'd go down and check it out. Back heading west again, we were gaining elevation. We started seeing little tidbits of snow here and there. We were looking for roads off to the left that would take us down in the general area of where that cabin was. We took a lot of different roads. We never did find the cabin. During our ride, and after we'd given up finding the cabin, we came across a guy in a side-by-side. He told us that yes, in fact, the cabin did survive the fire, and he kind of told us how to get to it. And then also that we were not going to be able to get to the Jumpoff Lookout because there was too much snow. Well, that didn't stop us from trying, of course. I don't know why I don't have any video of us trying to get through the snow. We went as far as we could, and we finally just decided it was better to turn around. We never got stuck, but it was getting kind of challenging. This is only the second time I've ridden this area, and I do enjoy it. The views are spectacular for sure. I use two apps on my phone for navigating when we're on these rides. One is Onyx. On this day, Onyx kind of failed us. Looking at the map, it showed there was a trail that was open that would connect 2 points, and in fact, that trail does not exist. It's an old abandoned road. That was kind of a disappointment. The other app I use is Avenza. The app itself is free. The maps you may have to pay for, but they're not very expensive. The map I use the most is a Forest Service map of the Washington Central Cascades, South region. I think I paid $5 for it. It isn't completely up to date, doesn't show all the roads, but it's a good reference. I find the tracking feature in Avenza simple to use, easier than Onyx. So how did my new plywood roof work? It worked great. The only problem was the wood was vibrating against the roll bar. I need to put some padding between the two. Other than that, it was great. And the rear section that was cracking did not get any worse. Still holding strong. All right, everybody. We've reached the end of another episode of Procrastination Garage. Hope you enjoyed the video. So this video content is from mid-March, and as I do this outro, it is like July 17th. Yeah, so I'm a little bit behind. Got lots of content to come, just need to find the time to edit it and get it uploaded. Do me a favor down in the comments, tell me about the projects you're working on, or better yet, the things you're procrastinating about, like the YouTube videos that you're months behind on. Remember, my name is Matt. This is Procrastination Garage. This video was supposed to be out within a week, and it wasn't, so count on one at least in 2 weeks, and hopefully sooner than that. Thank you very much.